Thank you. So, welcome everyone to the PNSQC conference 2025, and welcome to my talk. My talk today is on the test automation toolbox, exploring frameworks built on WebDriver. Hello everyone. Hi, my name is Pallavi Sharma. I am a founder at 5 Elements Learning and Mosaic Words. I am a published author of a few books on open source, primarily dealing with Selenium test automation using different languages like Java, Python, C Sharp. My latest book is on Night Watch. I'm also committed to the Selenium project. I also teach and coach people on Selenium. Um, and this talk is primarily around open source test automation, and we can explore the different frameworks which are built over it. So, how we would go about is that I will go through each sections. The talk is divided primarily into four sections. We will have a quick overview of what we understand web browsers and automation. Um, we will have a look at WebDriver and the different client bindings which Selenium provides over different languages. We will look at what is the WebDriver ecosystem, and finally, we will have a small discussion on the different test automation frameworks which are already existing in the open source ecosystem, which basically reduces and relaxes a lot of boilerplate framework code which we otherwise would be writing. So, if between the talk, if you have any questions, you can let me know. I will pause there, and I would also ask if you have any questions. So I'm joining this session from Delhi, India. Would you like to let me know where are you all joining from? And I hope you are all having, those who are attending an in-person conference, having a good time there. So you can unmute and let me know.
We are all in Portland here. Everybody
Okay,
in Portland. Yeah.
okay, cool, great. Okay, great. So we will begin. So to understand the basics of web browser automation, we need to first understand few pointers. We will talk about what is web browser. I'm sure most of you are already aware of it. What do we understand by the WebDriver protocol, and what is the web application doing in between all of it? So when we talk about a web browser and our application, which where we are trying to interact with the web browser, we basically have a browser web page which we have opened. The browser could be any of the browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, which you are using, and you basically key in your URL. The URL then basically sends an HTTP request to the web server where your uh, website is actually hosted, and it then establishes a connection and the data is sent back to you. So this to and fro keeps happening as you keep scrolling your web page, you perform various actions on it, your end user is trying to interact with it. And each of these actions are sent with the help of HTTP request and an HTTP response. So web browser is a software application which allows us to use the World Wide Web. It acts as an interface between the web server and your end user, and the information is shared over the HTTP protocol. When it receives back the HTML page, it is rendered on your browser so that you can view it. Any web browser which we are basically interacting has different components because it's a software application. It is built using different components. So you have an user interface, a rendering engine, where it has different components like networking, the JavaScript interpreter, XML parser, display end, and a browser engine. It's important that we understand that the web browser as a whole is not browser engine. These are two separate entities. There are tools which are available now in the market which allows you to automate and send your test through the browser engine. But it would be good to know that browser engine is not same as browser, and there could be situations and scenarios where you should have to be aware so that you know that what you are testing against. Are you testing considering how your end user is interacting with the web browser, or you are just taking one part of your browser and testing against it? So it would be good to know. So WebDriver is a remote control interface that enables intersection and control the user agent. And it basically provides us a language neutral wire protocol. When Selenium came into picture, it was basically a JavaScript server which was injected to the web browser, and through it, we were able to drive it. But then WebDriver came into picture, which was developed by Simon, and Selenium became Selenium WebDriver. Till Selenium 2, the WebDriver of different browsers to drive the web browser, whether it was Chrome, Firefox, it was managed by the Selenium project itself. But from Selenium 3 onwards, these web drivers of every browsers are now provided by the browser's vendor itself, and WebDriver became a recommended W3C standard. So if we want to talk about what is Selenium, Selenium is basically a library, a tool which automates browser. That's all it is. And what we do with that power is up to us. Lot of us use Selenium for testing purposes, and it's an automation library which is based on WebDriver standard, and it is driving the next WebDriver BID standards along with other browser vendors and different other tools and projects as well. If you're interested, I will be sharing these links as resources. You can explore more about it. Although, if you're already into testing and automation space, you might have already heard about Selenium or as well as use it. Are there any Selenium users here? Anyone who already uses Selenium? Okay, great. So, Selenium basically comes with different client bindings. You have Java, we have C Sharp, Python, Ruby, JavaScript. These are different client bindings. So we can implement Selenium using all these different programming languages. Each of these client bindings are basically implementations of the WebDriver interface. So we will be having the WebDriver where you will be creating an instance of your Chrome driver or Firefox driver so that you can work with that browser. You will then be basically trying to identify the element or locate the element with the help of the by class, where you can recognize an element using different HTML properties, and then you would be performing the actual end user operation on it which you are interested in. So whenever we are doing a web application automation, there are two aspects to it. One is creation, another is execution. There is actually a third aspect to it, which is also maintenance, which sometimes we don't consider, or maybe that perspective is not with us when we are dealing with it. Let's say during a proof of concept, you don't have to think about maintenance then. But if you're going to invest in automation, then it is important that you take that into consideration as well. In creation aspects, we look at browser management, element identification, action on elements. We need to be careful about the concepts of synchronization, which is weights, the concepts of handling data, handling our objects, report generations, logs, maintenance, etc. And then we come to the execution part. The execution could be local, that is within your environment, or you can use Selenium Grid, which basically allows you to run your test in parallel. The grid could be created in your own lab, or you can run it on cloud, again with your own setup, or you can basically take help from different vendors like Sauce Labs, like Browser Stack, like Testing Bot. There are various vendors available out there. Now, if we look at a very small problem statement, I have kept the problem statement small deliberately because I wanted to show the different frameworks using which we will solve this problem statement. and we can just have a look at the reduction in the number of code lines with the help of already inbuilt functions available there. So I'll just show you the application, and you can play around with it later as well. So this is the application. I'll just Our objective is simple. We want to basically perform a click operation on my account line. We want to verify that this operation is performed, and that's it. We would like to close the browser. You can go on further and work with email addresses, password, login, register to this application, and there are a lot of different scenarios available there which you can try it out. I would just request, do not provide any real email IDs. You can just create a dummy email address and do that. So this is just to play around and work with your automation concepts. So we have this application which we would like to perform this scenario, and we would like to verify that our action has taken place. Now, even for this small scenario, if we think about from a test automation framework perspective, we can basically create all these different components which we would ensure at the test architect level that whatever we are building is what we are building right. So maybe this application, you can think about what are the common functions which you can see across this application. What are the common objects which you will see? So you develop the page object models. You can think about, are there any utility libraries which can be built, for example, to handle data, to manage logs? Again, the first thing you would have to choose is what would be the programming language you would be using, because this entire infrastructure and the names which of the tools which we are looking at it here will change based upon the programming language you have chosen. Now, if you're using an open source project like Selenium, you need to have a unit test framework in place, which will basically take care of the testing aspects to the actions you are performing. You need to know that where your reports and logs would be, how frequently you are going to run these tests, where would you want to store the logs, what would be your logging mechanism, and everything. So we generally, whenever we are creating our own test automation frameworks, we need to be aware of all these components. Now, if you look at the ecosystem which we can use when we are using a project, Selenium, which is built on the WebDriver API, you have different client bindings. Let's say we pick up C Sharp as a language. Then you need to understand the ID you would be using, the unit test framework, which would be MS Test or NUnit, the package manager, which is Nugget, which you would be using. If you are picking up Ruby, then all the tool and interfaces changes. So, which programming language is best for a project like Selenium built over WebDriver? The answer is that whichever your team is comfortable with, whatever resources, the best of resources you have available, support. Also, we need to understand that whenever we are building any test automation framework to test an application, we have to take it as a development project. It is a development project. We have to shift that mindset and shift that perspective. And the development team actually becomes the stakeholder in your test automation projects, so that whatever changes they are making, they need to be aware that there is another team which gets impacted because of those changes. So you can create, if already you're using shift left techniques, you can ensure that the application itself you're creating is testable. So you can choose to inform your development team to use right set of locators like ID, name, area locators. These are all great locators to have instead of going towards XPath or CSS. Now, with Selenium, there are different test automation frameworks which are available to us, which reduces all this requirement of building our own artifacts, and we can use them. For example, if you are someone who is using Java, Selenide is a great test automation framework, again open source to look at. If you are working with Ruby, you can look at Water. If you're working with Python, Selenium Base is a great project to use. So instead of reinventing the wheel, you can explore these various other open source projects and get your work done. So I have chosen for this presentation two projects, Selenide, one for Java, and I will be choosing another from scripting language Python. I have taken Selenium base, and I will also talk about Aluminium, which basically gets AI into Selenium and how you can use that. Before we jump into this, are there any questions? Is there something you would like to let me know? Any questions you have?
None so far.
Okay. Have any one of you used any of these projects in your work? Like some of you already worked on Selenium, so did you use any of them?
No, not me personally.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Were you aware of them?
No.
Okay, no
Okay.
worries.
Definitely aware of the Python one.
Right. Okay, cool. That's all right. So, whenever we are working with your open source projects, it would be great that we actually go and look at the project, what that project is all about, who is the creator of this project. So Andrew is the creator of this project. Since it's open source, we need to be careful because we would like an active and a healthy project to be used for our work. Um, Open source projects are community driven. So if your community is healthy and active and it is a long-term project, then it's a great idea to build over it. So if you look at this project Selenite, it's a pretty healthy project. It has got various releases. The latest release was last week only. They're on version 7.11. You can have a look at the issues this project have currently open. Okay. So you can understand that, okay, these are the issues. For example, they're trying to work on a Selenide MCP server. Um, what are the various types of requests people have generated here? So knowing this helps us understand that the project is healthy and there are people involved. Now, the same question which we had picked, that we want to basically open the application and we want to click on the My Account link. That was our thought. So if you would want to write this particular code in Selenium, you would generally be going like, I'll just write it as a text file right now and set of pseudocode. So you basically have to say you want to open an application for with a given URL and then on a browser. So let's say the browser for us is Firefox. Then you want to click on My Account and you want to verify this and then you want to close it. This is it. So if you are working with Selenium, you would want to basically first create a WebDriver instance. So you would say WebDriver driver is equal to new web, let's say Firefox driver. And then you would want to basically set an implicit wait here so that your synchronization is taken care of. And then you would want to first identify the web element. To identify the web element, you would be using something like driver.find element by dot. Since it's a link, we will be using link text. And then you would say my account, and then you would be performing a click operation. And then you would want to verify it. If it is Java, you can use JUnit or testng assertions, and then you would want to say driver.close. So these are the lines which you would be writing. And if you have a framework in place, you might have some page object models which you would be calling in here. And maybe you will have created your own keywords. So instead of saying, um, driver.get and you have provided the URL, maybe let's say you have created your own keyword and you say now driver.go. So these would be the lines of code which you would have generally written for your Selenium. Now so I've created this GitHub project and I will show you this would be your plain Selenium Java code. Okay. So we have used JUnit in here. We have annotated it with the test so that we are basically telling that it is a test method. And these are the lines which we have written in here. Okay. The same file, if you have to write it in Selenite, you basically have to add if it's a Maven project, you can add it in your pom.xml and you can tell it which Selenite version you are wanting to use. Now, the same example in Selenite looks a little different, simplified, and you are free from the concept of having a separate test automation, sorry, assertion library to be included in your project because Selenite has taken care of it. So it has basically integrated the JUnit methods within its own framework and it has provided you keywords which you can use. So your browser looks like these are the two lines which you would be writing. You configure the browser and you call an open, which is a keyword in your Selenite or a command in your Selenite project, and you tell it to open the application. And then you basically tell it by using this command that you want to perform a click operation. And instead of adding any extra line of code for a JUnit or a testng, you have used another keyword where you have said should have text welcome sign in. The number of lines of code are significantly reduced in here. Okay. It's more readable as in compared to a plain vanilla Selenium script. So you get the power of, already created keywords. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Your language has become simpler. Number of lines of code have significantly reduced, and you get the power of Selenium itself since it is built over the Selenium Java client binding. So you don't have to shift to another project because you find the boilerplate framework code to integrate it with Selenium to make it test ready cumbersome. So all these open source projects bring us that benefit. The next project is basically we will have a look at, so you can look at this code side by side. This is what we have seen. The next we are going to talk about in C#, the framework which I'm going to talk about is Atata. It's created by Yagni. So again, it's a healthy project. The latest release happened on this year, June 23. 54 releases have happened. And before we start working on any open source project, it's always a great idea to get in touch with the creators if you have done the proof of concept and you would want to use it. You can have a look at the number of open issues which this project has. And if you have any queries, you can get in touch with the creators of this project and understand. So this project, if you're working with C# is your language, then this is a project you can explore. One of the projects which we are going to see in this is Selenium base. It's on Python. Python has lately it has been significantly gaining traction since AI times. So in Python, this is a pretty famous project. Release just happened 4 days ago. A lot of releases have happened created by Michael Mintz, and it's already being used by thousands of people. And there are multiple contributors to this project. So one of the good things about this project is it has got a lot of examples which they have built over how you would want to use Selenium base for your project. So from testing to web crawling to scraping, you can use Selenium base for a lot of things. And it also comes with its own recorder as well. And it is built over Selenium client bindings. So that's the benefit. You get the power of Selenium here. So if in Python we have to write the same script, this is how what our script would look like. You would need to ensure that you are using one of the test frameworks like unit test or PyTest for your project. And depending upon this, these are the similar lines you would be seeing, but in Selenium base, the number of lines, like I said, reduces. They become more reading friendly, end user friendly. You already have a look like these are your keywords you're using. You simply say SB, which is Selenium based, dot click link, and it expects a link text. Okay. And then you simply call as a text function. Unlike when you are using only Selenium, you have to write these lines. Sometimes people get they don't like writing these lines. They like more keyword driven type of approach or a simplified way of writing their programs. So using such projects which are already existing, have a good user base, is and they bring a lot of benefit if you don't want to shift to another tool. So you can see the number of code lines have significantly reduced and more readable scripts are available in here. In Ruby, if Ruby is a language of your choice, you can look at Ruby Raider. For JavaScript, a very famous project is WebDriver IO. WebDriver IO is built directly over WebDriver. Okay, so it's built over the WebDriver interface itself. So it implements the JavaScript aspects of it. It's a very, very popular project developed by Christian Broman and a lot of other contributors. So if JavaScript is the language of your choice, you can have a look at it. Similarly, you can have a look at Nightwatch, which uses again the Selenium JavaScript client bindings. And it's again a popular project maintained by uh, organization Browser Stack. Now, there is a lot of talk of AI happening and the need for AI in test automation. So we have another project which is built over Selenium and also different projects. If you're working with Playwright or APM, you can use Aluminium, which is created by Alex. And if you look at this project, it has been recently launched. It's a new project. It's not pretty old, but it is gaining good traction over these last few months since it has released. So it is basically, it brings the power of AI into already existing test automation ecosystem. So one of the challenges people face is the need for locators and the locators changing, which again could be reduced by making or ensuring that you have already taken care that your development team is a stakeholder and you have ensured that the application you're building is testable. But if you would like to use Aluminium to perform the same script, then in here, we basically use the power of Aluminium and we can also use our existing script as in whether your tool choice is Playwright or Selenium, you can also use those commands at the same time wherever you think that using an AI command here would be helpful, you can go ahead and do that. Right now it supports Python. So for example, this is the application you want to launch and work on it. So you create the driver object and you pass that driver object to the Aluminium uh, library. And then you basically say a command called as do. The purpose of do command in here is that you basically tell it what exactly do you want to do. So you say that you want to type Selenium into search field and then press enter. You're not passing any locators in here. So the underlying LLM model which you have used. For example, here I have said Anthropic. You can change it to ChatGPT or Olama, whichever you are using. So it would be using that to basically drive your automation. There are also some problems in here. If there is no need to use an AI model, maybe you can just let it go because it costs money. At the same time, it could be comparatively slower than your other frameworks because AI would take some time. In the initial levels, it would take some time to basically identify the element, but maybe long-term perspectives could be good in here. There is another presentation. I'm not sure if it has already happened by a project called as Test Trigger, a company. I think if this interests you, that talk would also interest you. So by knowing about these different test automation frameworks which are already existing in the world of open source, you can create better projects and write better, provided you want to stick to the WebDriver interface or the WebDriver ecosystem is the thought behind this particular talk. I'm sorry I did not see the hand raise. I have just opened the chat. So let me know the questions you have.
Earlier that Selenium has some recording functionality. I'm curious to hear about what that means.
Voice is breaking.
Oh, sorry. You mentioned earlier that Selenium Base has some recording functionality. I was kind of curious to hear about like what that feature is, I guess.
So Selenium Base has a Selenium Base recorder. Like we had Selenium IDE, but the Selenium IDE, which is the record and playback for Selenium. Selenium Base also comes with its own recorder where you can record and playback scripts.
How does that compare to Selenium IDE? I haven't used Selenium IDE for a while, but I just remember it was a little clunky, at least like 5 years ago for me.
Right. So Selenium ID again was driven by the open source community till Apply tools came into picture, and they supported a significant development of the Selenium IDE. Selenium Base is a separate project, a separate recorder which is created by Michael Mintz, and it has the similar features like ID. You can record and play back your scripts, but the scripts which are recording and playback will be generated using the Selenium Base commands, not the scripting commands. So we need to be aware of that.
Okay, cool. I did have one more question also for
Sure.
so for aluminum. Sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's
but
pronounced as it said.
Oh, okay. Uh, I was wondering, what kind of context gets passed in with your prompt when you send it? Is it just like the page data, or is it filtered down in some way?
So basically, as far as what I have understood is, if we look at the aluminum project, okay. So one of the good things about any open source project is that we can actually go ahead and look at how they are being implemented. So for aluminium, if you look at, we have this server. So they have separated their components. So we have a server and a client architecture here as well. And they have these different API models which they have used in here. And then in these agents, you have all these prompts where you have an actor prompt, a planner prompt, a locator prompt, and you can actually see for Anthropic, let's say, that they have these markdown files where they are instructing the LLM model with the prompt in place. And you can either take inspiration from it and build your own, or you can play around with it to learn it better. So this is how these tools basically work. So they basically are fetching the area tree, the accessibility tree of a web page. Once you have that, it basically then gives a prompt that the LLM model has to now specifically look within that context and identify the element you're trying to work on. So
That's pretty cool. So it looks like it takes this like initial prompt for like the agent persona as well as like the prompt that you're sending it and also XML data page in combination.
Right. So there is a talk by Alex in the previous Selenium conference. It's a good talk, and I think if this project interests you, that should be the talk you should explore. I can tell you the link of that YouTube, Alex. It's really wrong sometimes. Yeah. So that's the talk. It was quite well received. So like I said, it's a pretty recent project. There is still work going on in it. So it's always good to listen it from the people who have created it.
Thank you.
Sure. So if you have I'm basically one second. So this is the GitHub project which I have used. You can, those who are interested and would like to explore it, you can go ahead and do it. I think the presentation is already there with folks. So if you have any questions, anyone, you can let me know. We have come to the end of this talk.